Hello, Stitchy friends. How is everybody doing? Today is Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. My name is Andrew, and this little guy is Winston. Welcome to Flosstube number 49. This is the Runner Stitcher, my channel where I talk primarily about cross-stitch and a little bit about my running journey as well. So if you're new here, I hope you enjoy what you see and have a good time with Winston and I. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back to spend a little time with us. We both really appreciate it, and it's always good to connect with you and spend a little time. So I do want to say a quick thank you to Beth, who took advantage of the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. Thank you so much, Beth. I really appreciate that, and your kind note means a lot to me. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. The next thing I want to jump into is my running. As you know, we've been doing hashtag whip into shape, which is a stitching challenge I created for you all to stitch along with my marathon training for this season. And if you want to hear a little bit more about that, you can check out video number 45 of mine, where I kind of detail it all out and have the spreadsheet linked and everything. But that's been going well. So we have now finished week 3. Week 3 of 18, and last week the total amount was 290 stitches that were called for. That means I ran 29 miles, and still that's on the lower side of the training, so it is still ramping up. That took me 4 hours and 7 minutes, and yeah, like I said, we're still ramping up, so I hope you're not losing energy, losing steam yet, because we still got a while to go. But I will say it's been so much fun to see the progress already that people are making. It's really fun because these stitch counts are not that high, right? Some days it's only 30 stitches, 60 stitches, but they really add up over time. And so the fact that already in week 3 we're seeing some progress and really good progress is exciting. And I know by the end of this challenge, we'll all have a lot more done on our whips than we thought we would. So that'll be great. My whip of choice for the challenge is Fruits of Plenty. This is by Modern Folk Embroidery. And let me pull up a picture here of what it's going to look like. Here is what Fruits of Plenty looks like. And I know some of you are actually stitching on this as well for the challenge, which is awesome. Jessie at Jessie Marie Does Stuff is stitching on this too, and she's ramped up the challenge by a lot. So she's really making some good progress, and that is going to be really fun to see where she ends up with the piece. Since the last time I saw you, I put in 322 stitches, and it's a little off from last week's totals because I already stitched for yesterday and today. Today I ran 6 miles this morning. It was a beautiful day in New York, by the way, so the weather was perfect, great temperature. It was a really lovely run this morning. But I put in 322 stitches, and that puts me at 46.1%. And for the comparison photo for this one, I'm going to just put the photo of where I started at the beginning of this challenge, so you can kind of see how far I've gotten in the challenge up until this point. And here is where I am now. So I think since the last time that I saw you, I have been working on this side over here, and I put in that second bird. I can't remember if I had started that second bird last time or not. Maybe I hadn't started it at all, but that second bird is in, and I also worked on the darker green part of all those vines that are sort of going down around. Now I haven't filled any of the light green berries in yet, so that still needs to be done. But yeah, I'm excited for the progress. So here is the full thing so far. This is stitched on a 32 count vintage smoky white, and it's one of those printed fabrics, so it's got this kind of modeling on the front side, but no modeling on the back. And I'm stitching it with 2 DMC colors that I can't remember right now. I think 420, 320, and 890 maybe, something like that. But I'm stitching it 2/2, and yeah, really loving this piece. So close to 50%, which is a huge mark on this piece because this is a gigantic one. So yeah, that's where I am on Fruits of Plenty. And again, I cannot say thank you enough for all of you who have joined in on the challenge. It has been so motivating. And I can't tell you the number of times that I'm out there running and feeling like I don't really want to do this anymore, that I just think of all you stitching along, and really gives me the extra boost and energy I need. So that's awesome, and thank you so much for that. Yeah, so now let's just jump into my whips. Whips are works in progress, and these are pieces that I've worked on in the past week. I had a good week, so I've got a lot to share with you. I think I've got 6 whips to share, and I was able to add in 3,605 stitches on these pieces, so a pretty decent stitching week. I was continuing my Mania 500, so we'll get into that in a little bit, but the first whip I want to show you is Saga. This is by Long Dog Samplers. Here is what this is going to look like in the end. It's this beautiful piece with all these different stories and depictions in these arches. Since the last time I saw you, I added 615 stitches. That puts me at 37.07% on this piece. I'll add a video in here of where I was when I started. Okay, here's my starting point for Saga for the week. I will definitely be closing up this little section here, maybe working a little bit at the bottom here, but I am going to get into the arch. So we will see how far I get with that. And here is where I got to. So, as you can see, I did close in this gap on this arch here. There was a little piece that was not connected, so I closed that in, and then I jumped into the middle of the arch here, and I started adding some of the story. So there's a bat at the top right corner. I think this animal is, what is this? Maybe a sloth? I'm not sure. And then we've got this whale who's shooting some water out of his blowhole, and a pretty fun scene already. So now I'm not going to read the story today because I want to keep you guessing for one more week, but next week when I come back, I will have most of the arch filled in. Well, maybe not most, but a good portion of the arch filled in, and you will get the next story. So we'll hopefully get to hear what's happening with this whale and this bat and what's going on in this arch. But that is where I'm at. So here is the full piece so far. This is stitched on a 36 count vintage country mocha, and I'm using Silks for You PR207, one strand of silk over 2 linen threads. And I just love it. So that will definitely come back out again, and you'll hear the story next week. So make sure to come back then. All right, and the next couple whips I have, these were all for my Mania 500. Now I don't have starting videos on those pieces, but I do have a picture of where I was when I started. So I will be popping that up as well as we go along, and then I'll share my progress. But the first one, as you know, which was called at the end of last week, was Woodland Enchantress. This is a kit from Dimensions. Here is what she's going to look like in the end. She is just beautiful, and I'm really getting excited now that I've gotten to her. It's fun to pull it out. So here is a picture of where I was when I started. And here is where I got to. I was able to add 528 stitches, and basically I just worked on her hair. And that was basically the 500 stitches right there. So as you can see, I filled in some of the gaps that were between the hair and the blue background, and yeah, her hair is really looking good. I love the way it's like flowing and blowing in the wind, and it really gives a lot of movement with the colors and the dimension. It was a lot of fun to stitch because there's a lot of different browns in her hair, but they all just sort of flow, almost like a mirabilia. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. So again, I'm not quite all the way to the edge. I think there's a little bit more that I need to go over here. So my margin will be okay. It might be a little bit tight, but yeah, it's getting really exciting now that I'm able to work on her as well. And then I definitely need to get back to some of the background because there's still more blue to go here. There's a bunch of blue fill in here, and then her dress will start. So yeah, 528 stitches, that puts me at 29.91% on this piece. Okay, next up is Celtic Autumn. That was the next one that was spun on my wheel. Here is a picture of what she is going to look like, except I'm doing a conversion that I found on Janet Granger's blog online that just kind of gives a more autumn feel. I didn't really like these colors as much, so I switched it to her conversion, which I love. So this is what she'll look like, but the colors are definitely different. And I'll pop a picture in here of where I was last time at the beginning of Mania 500. And I was able to add in 539 stitches. So that puts me at about 22.89% on this pattern. I was able to get this in markup RXP in the sense that I have sort of each page separately. I kind of broke it down into pages, and so each page I can use Markup RXP for, but I can't like view the whole chart, which is fine. But so I think the stitch count is relatively correct. So 22.89% on this piece. And here is where I got to in Mania 500. So as you can see, we got some work done on the border here. So I brought down this red border, and then in this part here, we've got all these little tiny motifs with a bunch of different colors. I'm not sure how well the colors are actually showing up here, but we've got some red individual stitches in there. We've got some petite treasure braid. We've got some gray stitches in there, and it was a lot of color changing, but I do really like it in the end. There's still some holes in here that will get covered with beads. So there's a lot of beads in this piece. I didn't realize that there were so many in a piece like this. I thought that was mostly Mirabilis, but apparently Lavender lace also has a lot. So I finished this section here, and then I still had more to do, and the only thing left was to start on her skin. So I got started on her face and her skin. And I am doing that 1/1, so that was tiny stitches again, and my stitch count doesn't quite reflect the total, but I think it looks really lovely. I will say that the front of her face, like her chin and her nose, the called for color, when I stitched it, it just looked so white. It almost looked like she was just wearing a ghost mask or something. But so I frogged what I had stitched with that color and chose just a slightly darker color, which honestly still kind of looks white when it's close up. You can really see what I'm talking about. But when you pull it back, the shading does sort of work. And it does look much better now that I got the back stitching in. So at first I didn't have the back stitching done, and I was like, her face is too white, it's not gonna work. But it kind of all came together with the back stitching. So I did that, I did her lips, her eyes, and her eyelash. And I do really think she looks good, especially from a distance. So happy to have that done. And then the next time I get her out, I think I did a little of the skin on her neck here. So I think there's a little bit more to come down here, and then we'll get into the dress, which is really exciting because that's what I love about this piece and the colors. So that is Celtic Autumn. All right, then I spun the wheel again, and the next piece that was called was Feasting Frenzy. This is another Dimensions kit. Here is what that's going to look like in the end. And I had only worked on this one other time. It was a Whipgo call last year to start this piece. And so I started in the very center with this bird right here, and that's all I had done. And I have not worked on it since. So this was really fun to get back out and see, to get a little bit more done. Now I did kind of cheat a little bit, I guess, in the sense that I chose to work on some of the background, which are only half stitches. So I was able to get in, let's see, 551 stitches, which puts me at 12.29%, but they were all half stitches. So here's a picture of where I was when I started, and here is where I got to now. I prefer to work from the top down, and so I figured if I work my way up, then I'll be at the top of the piece and I can just kind of pick and choose where I want to go and work down. So I worked on all these half stitches up here. There is a bird that sits on the roof of the birdhouse, so that will be the final piece to get to the very top. But yeah, this was fun. Definitely makes me want to pull it out again. I think for sure it'll be coming out this summer. All right, and I spun the wheel again, and the next piece that was called for was Black Roses by Owl Forest Embroidery. So here is what this piece looks like. It is absolutely beautiful. I started it for my New Year's start on New Year's Day and worked on it a little bit, but didn't get too far. Now for me, this piece is a little bit different because I decided, because I'm crazy, to do this piece solely in beads. So this will be a fully beaded piece, and that just means it takes a little bit longer to get some progress, and that's okay. So when this was called, I was actually glad because it was called on a Friday, so I had all weekend to just bead, and that's what I did. I was able to add in 515 beads, which puts me only at 3.06% on this piece, but hey, 3% is 3%, and yeah, I'm just going to keep working on this as I feel like beading, but there's no sort of timeline or goal in mind. I'll pop a picture up here of where I was when I started the challenge, and I am happy to show here is where I got to. So I added in a bunch of these rose stems here and these leaves, and on this side I brought these stems down, and yeah, I think it's looking really good. So this time I added all black beads. I didn't add any of the metallic kind of purpley color that I'm using for the roses, but yeah, this was a lot of fun, even though it took a while, and I still really enjoy beading, so it's enjoyable for me. And it really helps me kind of slow down a little bit, because you have to be kind of just slow and meticulous. You can't go too fast with the beading thread, with the invisible thread. Well, I'm using Nymo, but you can't go too fast. So it just kind of forces you to slow down and just enjoy the stitching, which was really fun. So I think I am getting close now on this side to where the castle actually starts, which will be fun. So I'll probably have a few more sessions of working in the flowers and the roses until I can get to the top of the castle, but I'm very excited. And next time I should have a little bit more of the metallic colors, which I know you can't see too well in the camera, but they do really sparkle in person. So, all right, and after I was done beading, then I spun the wheel again, and the next project that came up, which was my Heirloom Bear Needlepoint kit from Bucilla. So this is what he is going to look like in the end. I'm still in this top corner right here working on some of these colors, but this was such a nice change after beading for a few days to get those 500 beads in. This was super easy because these are basically half stitches as well, and so I was able to add approximately 535. I don't really count my needlepoint stitches, but I tried to for this just to have a gauge, but yeah, approximately 535 stitches. Here's a picture of where I was when I started, which you might not be able to see the comparison too well. And here is where I got to. So you will see here that I added, sorry, trying to get this so that you can all see it. I added a lot more of these red colors in here and in here. And I brought down this darker sort of maroon burgundy color in this section here. So that was 530 some stitches, which means there are a lot of stitches in this piece, but it's really fun to pull out, and it's kind of mindless. You just sort of follow the pattern on the canvas, and you don't really need to be meticulous about like cross stitch with every X being correct, which is kind of nice. So I think I'm getting the hang more of needlepoint, and yeah, really just enjoying it. It was fun to pull back out again. It'll be nice to have for times that I just want to work on something but don't want to think too much. All right, and that was my final whip. Those were the 6 that I worked on for the week. But I did do the spin after Heirloom Bear was completed last night. I did the spin to see what was going to be called on next. And I'm happy to report that the next one that got called was Gaia. Gaia, the Earth Goddess. I've been talking about her all month because she is my other Whipgo goal for the month. I'm supposed to put in 1,800 stitches for Whipgo and then an additional 500 for Mania 500. So I have a couple days left in May. We'll see how far I can get on that number. I think I'll be able to at least get the 1,800 in and complete my Whipgo number, but she might be the last piece for Mania 500 since she's got a call to her. But I'll put a picture in here of what she's going to look like in the end. And I will just show you my starting point on her since I'm super excited that she'll be coming out. Here's my starting place. So I will continue working on the dress up here, and probably some of these greens, I'll bring that up a little further, but the main section I'll be working on is the dress, and super excited. This was started last year for Kat from Kat, Ken, and Lily, her birthday, so I'm super excited that it's coming back out for her birthday month. And she's a lot further than I am. And Emma Bobbins, who is the other person that started this along with us, she's already finished Gaia, so I'm trailing behind, but still really enjoying every stitch on her, and yeah, we'll see how far this gets. All right, and that's sort of plans as well, so we can just jump right into the rest of my plans. For the rest of Mania 500, like I said, I'll be working on Gaia so that she can get her 1,800 stitches for Whipgo. And if I do finish that plus the 500 stitches, I will spin the wheel again and we'll see what other project gets slated for 500. I believe May 31st is on Saturday. So after May 31st, I might spin the wheel just one more time, and whatever project gets called left, then I'll just work on it for the rest of the week until I see you again next week. So we'll get a couple of days maybe. That would kind of be my plan. But then once we get back to next week on Tuesday, once May is over, I will get back into my temperature stitching. So we'll talk about that next week, and we'll get that kind of fired up again. Mania 500 has been really fun for me. I think after having a limited number of whips in Florida, it's been fun to see all of my projects again. And it's kind of felt like like coming home to some things that I've neglected for a while. So it was nice to kind of rotate through things. But definitely still some pieces that didn't get called and haven't got called for Whipgo yet, so are still waiting in the wings. But that's okay. We'll get to them when we can. The only other thing that is left is Whipgo numbers were called for June, and the June numbers were, let me pull up my chart here, were number 23 and number 21. So, as you know, with Whipgo, I spin my wheel to see how many stitches each project will get. For me, number 23 is Halloween Quaker by Leela Studio, and number 21, which is absolutely perfect, is Strawberries Forever from Told in the Garden, which you saw, I think, last week. And I wanted to pull out anyway for the hashtag Strawberry Moon Sal, which always happens in June. So it's perfect that Whipgo called Strawberries Forever in June, and I will definitely get some progress on that. But the first project is Halloween Quaker, so let's see how many stitches I'm going to work on for that piece. This is my Whipgo stitch count number. Okay, so 1600 for Halloween Quaker. That's good. That will be a nice chunk of progress for that piece. And then let's spin again for Strawberries Forever. And we'll see how many we get there. All right, 2100. That's a big one. Okay, so 2100 for Strawberries Forever. I will pop a picture in here of what my Whipgo chart currently looks like, and you'll see there's 3 yellow spots because I have to complete Gaia, and then the 2 for June. And you'll see all the other green spots that I've accomplished. All right, I think that's all we've got for you today. So I hope you enjoyed those updates on my whips, and keep stitching for hashtag whip into shape as I'll keep running, and we'll keep going through the training. I have a lot of plans sort of ruminating in the back of my mind for the next little while. There's a lot of things that I want to start and get going, and sort of plans that I'm kind of matching fabric and floss and just kind of getting some projects ready. So I may share that with you in an additional video coming up at some point, just of some projects that I would like to start working on eventually. I also don't want to have too many starts because I do already have 25 projects, and that kind of seems like a good number for me. So we'll see what happens because none of my projects are that close to a finish, but I would like to start some things. So we'll see what happens. But one of the things that I will be starting in the future is a round robin, which is super exciting. I've always wanted to do one of these, and Jason from Jason X Stitch and Sheldon at Sheldon Stitches, they both reached out and asked myself and Tyler from Will It Stitch if we wanted to do a round robin. And so the 4 of us are going to be picking projects, and then we'll be sort of rotating those pieces around for each of us to stitch on. I'm super excited. I have placed my order for the floss that I needed. I already had the pattern. It's one that I've wanted to stitch for a while. So stay tuned here for that, and you'll see some round robin stitching coming up in the future too. But I think that's it. So keep running if you're a runner, always keep stitching, and be kind to whoever you meet on your journey. Bye for now, until the next stitch.